You know what really makes us mad is wasting money on CDs with only one or two good songs.
Yeah. Tell them about punk.
What's up, posers? Welcome to Punklottopod. I'm your co-host, Justin Hensley.
I'm your other co-host, Dylan Hensley.
And it's been a minute.
Yeah, we are both hanging on for dear life. Do you like how 2022 was just like, I think I'm going to try and kill both of them. Just right at the end, like, shit, I forgot. I knew I forgot something.
Kill the Hensley brothers. Yeah, I got the COVIDs. I made it 3 years without catching COVID, and it finally caught me. But I'm nearing the end of my self-isolation in the home. Tomorrow is day 10, and I get to come out. What's killing you?
I did not get COVID. I went over the handlebars of an electric scooter at 15 miles per hour trying to get to the train station. Just didn't see a grate. It was one of those metal, you know how in cities they plant trees in the middle of the sidewalk because they think that that's a good idea, and then the trees like destroy the sidewalk. So it was one of those like trees that's planted in like a big open space in the sidewalk, and there's the metal grate that goes around it to prevent weeds. I don't know, but then the tree roots grow and it pushed the grate up, so it was sticking out like almost a foot out of the ground. But like it was dark, and so it just kind of like blended in with itself. And the only reason I hit it was because when I was on my way to work, I got off the train, and I'm like, why are they putting fences around this train stop? Oh, right, because tomorrow's New Year's Eve. So I was like, I don't want to take the chance of my normal stop being closed, so I'm just going to go to Union Station. So I went an unusual route, which goes under like a highway overpass, and like it's got a big curve, and I'm like, I'm not gonna ride in the street and get hit by a car over here. So I drove up on the sidewalk, and that was a bad idea. So yeah, I hit my head, my shoulder, I have had sore ribs for almost a week. Very rough.
So we're in tip-top podcasting shape.
Yeah. Any wincing or screaming.
Yeah. So because we totally actually really did mean to do this a lot earlier. We were planning on doing a two-parter. We were going to do the first 5 last week, and then the second 5 this week. So last week of December, first week of January. Then like because Christmas fell on like a Sunday, and I had to work Saturday, Monday, and Tuesday, it kind of really screwed up like all our recording plans. So we're like, okay, well, we'll just put up the some of the guest list audio, and which I wound up having to cancel a lot of those due to having COVID.
Yeah, I also had to take we had to take our cat to the emergency vet, so that was like a 3-day thing.
Yeah, so it's just been like nonstop for us, and yeah, we're here. We're doing it finally. A week after New Year's, when everyone is so wanting to talk about albums of 2022.
Well, there's nothing new out.
True, there isn't really much. I mean, tomorrow we're recording this on a Thursday, so tomorrow's the first Friday of the new year. So we might get something tomorrow, but I don't know of much on my radar. But it's that time of year where you're like, yeah, I'll listen to this because I don't have anything else to listen to. So we are doing our best of 2022 top 20. I guess it's 10 each. So it's our 2 top 10s equals 20. It's a weird number to use for a top list, but whatever. Last week, I posted the guest list with good friend Corey and Dave Brown. Yeah, we're finally doing it. We're talking about our picks. And before we get into that, you can head over to our Patreon for all of our bonus audio. I have completed, by the time this episode goes up, I have completed the 2022 A to Z. That's where I did every artist I listened to alphabetically from 2022 that released music in 2022. I did a piece of audio for every letter of the alphabet, with the exception of two episodes were combined letters, and just because there weren't enough bands, blah, blah, blah. And I have decided I'm not doing that ever again.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. Yeah, and that sounds horrible and time consuming.
Yeah.
I don't know why you did that.
I just had to do it. I had to see for myself how awful that experience was to write something about nearly 500 albums that I listened to this year.
And I'm sure you realized very soon into it that it was not a good idea, and then, of course, could not fail on it.
Right.
So once you start it, you have to do it till it's done.
I mean, I did get lots of feedback from people, and everybody said they were really enjoying the series, so that's good. I had multiple people reach out, so thankfully, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm not doing that ever again. I'm trying to figure out an alternative way of doing this. I think I'm bringing back the new release Friday audio. That's my plan, where I talk about the new stuff that came out that I listened to. Maybe I'll just throw a passing and I also listened to this from these artists on those, and that gets it covered for the year. But we'll see. That's for later. But
it's very important that you get credit.
Yeah.
The work that you do. They need to know.
They need to know that I listened to all of these albums.
That I listened to this EP once.
No, I had listened to everything at least a second time so I could write something about it, because I didn't know what it sounded like anymore 6 months after it came out. But yeah, that's on our Patreon. We will be doing a chart dive on the year 2022. That'll be our weekly bonus audio this week. And you can get all of that for $1. I guess I never did bring up, but now that Patreon has offered, what is it called, anniversary billing, where it's just whatever day you sign up on, it renews that same day the next month, instead of the way they used to do it, where it just charged you on the first every single month. So like if you sign up in the middle of the month, you would get charged again 15 days later, whereas now you get a full 30 days before that. So, and they also asked if I wanted to be on the list for trial offers. So I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but whenever that's enabled, I figured I'd turn that on, see if it might be a limited number of listens or downloads or something, or what you can view. I don't know. We'll see whenever that comes up. But yeah, patreon.com/punklottopod. We have all sorts of social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at punklottopod. Email punklottopod@gmail.com, and our voicemail 202-688-punk, which I did not get voicemails this year. But I also didn't ask anybody to call it. So, I do have one voicemail for us. So we will play that. So here is our lone voicemail we received this year.
Hey, podcasters. So you want your listeners and your friends to make lists for you, to give you content for your end of year. Typical. Pretty lazy. Well, I ain't going to do that because there was no Madball record this year. So what I am going to do is list ways that I could put wimps like you in the hospital. Number one on my list is a throat strike. Open palm, fist, it don't matter. Right for your jugular, you're going down. Number two, good old swift kick to the groin. 1-2 in the family jewels. You ain't getting up from that. Excuse me. I'm eating a pizza pie. Next on my list is an eye gouge. I'm going to take you out. You're going to be blind. You're crippled. You're crazy. You ain't going to see nothing after that. Last but not least, is I'm going to attack your joints. Nice elbow drop right to your kneecap or to your elbows, whatever. So you wimps, have a happy holiday. Hopefully your lists go right. Or if they don't, I don't give a shit. Whatever. And keep listening to Madball. Squad's pretty good.
Good to hear from old Jimmy Short Eyes, whatever.
Was it Jimmy Two Fingers? Johnny Two Fingers?
Something like that.
Oh, why did I play that? That's nothing to do with the best albums of the year.
Yeah, it's well, you know.
No Madball this year.
I could take a pretty big bump, so as proven by
now you're in a weakened state.
I did not go to the urgent care when I should have. So it hit hard.
Madball, I think, is supposed to play in North Carolina soon too.
I would not go to that. That sounds like a bad time.
Yeah, maybe he'll be there.
Yeah, he just follows them around like the dead.
Yeah. Well, we didn't get any other voicemails because I didn't ask anybody else to send any in. So there's that. But I couldn't let that one go to waste because that was our lone voicemail. But yeah, that's 202-688-PUNK. Call that. You can tell us your favorite albums or all the different ways you want to maim us.
I would rather hear what you liked listening to. Rather than the bodily harm you wish to inflict us. But I mean, if that's all you got to say, I mean, that's fine. Bring it on, I guess. But good to have a tally of how many people want to harm us.
Documenting it.
Yeah, right. For legal reasons.
Well, let's get into it. So, 2022, the year that was. What was it? Do you have any feelings whatsoever on what 2022 was in music? I guess we'll focus on that. Like, was it a good year? Was it a bad year?
Your theory was that it was not a good year.
Yeah. Revisiting that 400 plus albums I listened to this year through the A to Z, I really was like, I don't think this year was a good year for music. There's a lot of good music. Don't get me wrong. There's literally always good music. Every single year there's good music. Like, you can't disregard that. But there was just kind of this, I don't know. It was just like lacking in any of that, like that one thing or that like or notable like specific things. Because I kept looking at all those like end of year lists, like the best of lists that all the other sites post. And they all are like number 1, Beyonce, number 2, Rosalia, number 3, this Radiohead side project. Like, it was at first I was like, there's no consensus. But I was like, oh, no, there is a consensus. It's just nothing that I'm remotely interested in.
I did not know that there was a new Beyonce album.
Where have you been? It's been out for months.
I have not been paying attention to whatever's happening in pop music. I don't know what Bad Bunny sounds like.
Yeah, he was on all the lists too.
I did not know that there was a Beyonce album. I did not listen to the new Taylor Swift. Did anybody talk about that Carly Rae record after?
Not right after it came out.
The week it came out? That was it.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about Emotion.
Yeah.
Or have been for years, but it's like, she's right there.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like a year. There are some consensus picks, but like if you look at the more like alternative left of mainstream selections, though I'm also very annoyed when all of those like, yeah, we're a website that devotes themselves to alternative type music, and they're still like number 1, Beyonce. I'm like, what?
Shut the fuck up.
That's not why I'm reading this page. I know people like Beyonce. That's fine. That's not why I go to AP Mag. I don't know if AP Mag did a list this year. I looked at like the Brooklyn Vegan list, and that was very much a list that guy who writes all the punk articles for Brooklyn Vegan wrote. Mm-hmm. It was like, okay, yeah, he put a Dr. Acula album on that list, just so you know.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know how that guy got that job, but he got to do his own entire punk list, punk and hardcore list. Well, he didn't even have contributors. That was.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because Brooklyn Vegan does not actually care about punk at all, and so yeah, they just want someone to do it all for them, so they don't have to. They don't really care if his opinions are good or not. If he's well researched in any way.
The alternative did a list, and theirs was kind of like what you would expect from the alternative. I wasn't like annoyed by their list because it was the type of artist they covered all year long. So I don't know. It's what you expect from them. The used to be emo bands is what they mainly talk about. We used to call this emo. Not anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really liked the records that I listened to repeatedly this year.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like it was an easy year for me to pay attention to as far as like new stuff coming out that I was interested in. Like there was plenty of stuff all year long that I was like, I'm interested in that. I'll listen to that. Like even if there weren't like a lot of records that I like came back to a bunch of times, there was definitely stuff that I was like, yeah, it's good enough for one listen at least. Like I want to know what that is. Like I see people talking about this. I want to know what it sounds like. Which is not always the case. Sometimes it's just like, I don't care what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's stuff that comes out. I mean, there was stuff this year, I'm sure, that it was just like, I saw people name drop and I was just like, whatever that is, I'm not interested. I don't want to find out. Just based on who was saying it, what the artwork looked like.
Underrated aspect of the year. Artwork was bad this year. Dave Brown pointed this out to me originally. He was like, why is all the artwork this year bad on records? And then I was like, you're right. It's a really bad year for album art. There's good stuff, obviously, but like even artists I love are like, why is that your cover? Why is the Carson McHone record just like crayon? You know, my number one pick, it's a horrible album cover. I hate it.
Now you got me wondering, what album covers did I like this year?
The ones I liked were from people I already like. You know, like I loved the Cluttered EP Transgender Dystopia Blues cover. That was a really good cover. The Fresh album cover was good. Future Girls was good. But like, I don't know. It was just a bad year. Just photos. They're just photos of a thing or a person and like nothing to it. I don't know. I saw some really bad artwork this year.
Yeah, there's some album covers that I really liked, but not a lot. By and large, they're very forgettable. There's very little that like strikes me as like an iconic album cover from this year, which, you know, I feel like I don't think that people know how to make an iconic album cover anymore. Like just like far and wide, like genre across all genres. Like there are very few album covers that I can think of from the last 2 decades that are just going to come to mind when you think of like iconic album covers.
So I thought what we would do is we'll look at the first couple pages of results for the Rate Your Music punk charts ranked by popularity, and we'll do a deeper dive on that on the Patreon. But yeah, number 1 on here, not a punk record. The Smile, A Light for Attracting Attention. It's Johnny Greenwood and Tom York from Radiohead doing a side project. So I'm sure the rest of Radiohead is real happy about that. Like, wait, you're the 2 famous ones. Why why are you leaving us?
Yeah.
I did not listen to a second of it.
No, I didn't listen to that. One of my picks is right up here at the top charts.
Yeah,
It should be. I mean,
cool.
It should be. We'll talk about it. You said
yeah.
Chat Pile is nothing special
okay.
or not even good.
This Chat Pile record, I listened to it. God's Country. It's been on everyone's fucking end of year list. Everyone's had this on their list. Why? I heard 7 other records that sounded exactly like this one this year. Why did this one become so popular? It's a noise rock record from Oklahoma City. Louisville has an entire scene of this kind of band. Like there's a shitload of Louisville bands. Bummer, that band Bummer, they're from Louisville. There's like 12 other bands from that city that do the exact same style as this record. What the fuck? Who gave it? Why? It's not even memorable. It's why? I don't get it. Who did this get in front of that it shouldn't have? Did Pitchfork give it an 8?
Did it get needle dropped?
I don't know. There's no fucking reason why this record should be this high up here. Sorry, it's not very good. I don't know. That one bugged me. And I just kept seeing it over and over again. Yeah, and Viagra Boys put out a record this year. Didn't they just put one out last year too?
Yeah, they did.
I do think this year is finally the year that the vinyl output finally caught up to the delay. So I think the last half of the year was like one of the slowest halves of a year in a long time. And I think it's because, all right, now everything is just still waiting at the plants. So that's why nothing's coming out. That's why you had such weird release schedules of stuff. Like stuff that was sat on for multiple years finally came out. And then you'd have like back-to-back releases. And it's like, yeah, now we're at the point where nothing's coming out. So we'll see how the beginning of the year is for that. But Fontaine's DC Skinty Fia. This was actually one of Anne Lepore's picks, which I'm not getting to record with her this year for the best of audio, but she picked this one, and it's like it's that UK post-punk sound that everybody's doing right now. They're Irish, so they do it a little bit different. They're a little darker sounding too, but in that vein. Gospel put out The Loser, their first album in since 2005, I think, is when that last record came out.
That's a really good one. That one, if I had come back to it, I might have put that on my list.
It's a hard record though. Like, it's like a good record, but it's a hard one to be like, yeah, I'll throw this on.
Yeah. That's what kind of kept it from being, I'm like, when am I going to put this record on again and like listen to the whole thing? I don't think it's a record that I'm going to break up into segments and enjoy listening to. But it's a very good one. Really good return. I think better than the City of Caterpillar record.
Ooh.
Spicy take, I guess. As far as
disagree with that, but I think seeing City of Caterpillar live also made those songs make more sense to me. Because the first time I listened to it, it kind of just blended together. But I got to see them this year, and I was like, oh, okay, it clicked for me in a way that it didn't before. So maybe that needs just a little more time. Wet Leg released their album Wet Leg. This is one of those records that was on every single list. I mean, this was on Anne Lepore's list too. I like this record too, but it's just funny to see that this got so huge.
My when the Spotify Wrapped came out, my wife was looking at people's on like Instagram, people that were posting, and she's like, "What the fuck is Wet Leg?" And she goes and plays like 30 seconds of a song, and she goes, "Ew, no." I listened to this record when everyone was like Plant when it came out that week, and I was just like, oh my god, what is it? Like, why is everyone having such a meltdown about this record? And I'm like, it's fine. I enjoyed listening to it the one time that I listened to it, but it was like, I'm not going to come back to it. And then like I started hearing it's playlist core for sure. Like I was hearing songs in like multiple songs from this record on like the Crossroads Trading Company, the clothing reseller playlist. I was like, oh, okay, that's who this is for.
Chaise Lounge.
On the chaise longue.
Why are people saying it's Plant? I didn't understand why people were like Plant. They're Plant. It's like they're from the Isle of Wight. They're a two-piece that only play vocals and guitar. I mean, you can hire session drummers. That's normal. I don't know. It didn't. What are they planting? Like, this type of music is it's like post-punky indie rock. Industry planting that kind of music is not a thing.
Yeah, like what are they gonna? Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, to me that cries of of Plant is just misogyny. Because honestly, listening to it, I'm like, this didn't feel like it was written by a committee or anything like that. It felt like organic artists putting out a record. I don't know. Is it because no one knew who the fuck they were and they just got signed immediately? I don't know.
I mean, that happens. I mean, what label put this out even? Like, I don't.
Who did that one?
It was an indie label. Domino.
Domino's pretty big though.
A big indie. Okay, fine. But that was my reaction. I was like, are they a Plant, or do you guys just not know what a big indie looks like?
Yeah.
Like, they just got in front of the right person. And
Domino's not the kind of label that we've even seen that kind of like trajectory from.
Yeah, like, is Domino a feeder?
They might have some good distro, but I don't think it's
like, what are they even doing? CD issues of like Arctic Monkeys? What?
London record label. They have wings in New York and Germany and France. They have Red Eye distribution in the US and Pious Group. in UK.
So they're like, yeah, they're a big indie. Like they're almost a major label, but they're just not like, they're not corporately owned. So that's not a plant. I don't.
Yeah, they got Alex G, Animal Collective, Arctic Monkeys, Franz Ferdinand.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What else came out this year? I guess we're doing a lot of electronic music and calling it punk again.
Yes.
We had our little experiment with Machine Gun Kelly and our little pop punk phase, which I think culturally we moved on from that pretty fast this year.
People loved that Fleshwater record. It came out on like Death Wish. It's Deftones core. Deftones Humcore on Death Wish. Yeah, like, oh, looking at these is always awful. Like the reason when it's the year you're in or the year you just had, looking at the punk charts is always just like, what? Who's Wyland?
The new Pup.
Mm-hmm. The Unraveling of Pup the Band.
Pretty disappointing, right?
It's definitely my least favorite Pup record.
Yeah. I did not listen to it more than once.
I did. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good record, but it was also like kind of a concept album centered around Pup the Band got too big. They're too big, too famous, and everybody hates each other. But also that's kind of in a running theme. DVP was like how much they hate each other in the tour van. I wonder if that's what keeps the band around too. If they're actively will say how much they hate each other in songs, and it kind of keeps the like it's out there, you know. Though honestly, if you've ever seen them live, they do not look like a group of people who hates each other in any way whatsoever. I think that's just a running joke for them, but yeah. The Callous Dow Boys, Celebrity Therapists, they're like a huge band. Like they have like a lot of members. They're like an 8-piece or something like that. Interesting, like I think there's like 3 women in the band too, which is wild for mathcore. Doesn't tend to attract that many women in their bands, but that's pretty cool. They seem to have like very much like a collective vibe to their band. What else? Yeah, so this year is I don't know. I guess we could say the trends of this year are your indie sleaze. Mm-hmm. Your talk punk. Yeah. Your metalcore. Always metalcore. Always metalcore. I mean, really. Always hardcore. Always emo. The metalcore of this year very much reminds me of, was it 2015 when Code Orange put out the record that was just breakdowns. Like just breakdowns. That to me, I do think that as far as like the 2000s throwback metalcore stuff that people were doing this year was like fun. Like there were multiple releases that came out that were like, this is enjoyable to listen to. Mm-hmm. in that sing scream metalcore stuff. It's not thrilling, but like maybe I'm not the right audience for it. Like I feel like maybe if you were too young for the metalcore era, this is probably a better, more consistent, safer version of it. So like getting into metalcore now, like do it now rather than being in like 2005 and you're just like listening to people that would turn out to be like attempted murderers and yeah. The 90s were in this year. Yeah, I feel like on paper, did it really sound like the 90s? I think in other genres. I don't think in the stuff we were really listening to. Yeah. There's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of 90s, like the Breeders, I felt like were a touchstone for multiple artists this year. And yeah, it's that kind of 90s. It's like Pixies and Breeders and Lemonheads and Dinosaur Jr. The same ones that get touched on all the time, though, you know. Yeah, it's hard to be excited for it. Though hardcore was doing a 90s thing for sure this year. Lots of just like, oh, that sounded like that came out in 1997 for sure. A lot of that in hardcore. But yeah, a lot of things saying they're 90s influenced, but not really sounding 90s influenced. I don't know. I think we've gone long enough. We'll go deeper on the rest of these charts, but we should probably get going because we have a lot of albums to talk about today. So who wants to go first?
Let's see. Let me find my list. Make sure I'm happy with the order that it's in. Yeah, I'll go first.
Alrighty. All right, you're number 10.
So number 10 on my list is the Melbourne, Australian anarcho-punk band Pinch Points and their record Process.
I get anxious. I get anxious. I get anxious when I'm not at home. I get anxious when I don't have the phone. I get anxious when I go outside. I get anxious when I go online. I get anxious. I get anxious. I get anxious.
Trying to read the news.
I get anxious. I get anxious. I get anxious with so much to pay attention to.
I got Uber Eats, Netflix fever and chills. Skype's like Zoom and my video conferencing skills have got me well prepared to spend the rest of my life in my room.
This is just the life I live. I got no good reason to leave. 'Cause home is where the Wi-Fi is. Now it wasn't hard going into quarantine.
But now I don't even want to go outside. 'Cause when I do I see pogroms,
Bushfires, panic bells on a tripwire.
but now for my next trick I guess I'll just stay right here in my bed. The world keeps getting hotter and my sheets are soaked in sweat.
I decided to go with a moment I'm really into, to go with a record that I'm really into in the moment that I may look back on and say, yeah, I didn't come back to that. But I came back to it so consistently this year that I feel like it's the right choice. The other record that this will just be kind of like a sort of a runners-up consolation, was very close to putting the new Dan Andriano record on my list, but it did not click in the way that previous Dan solo records did. It could be one I grow into, and I'll say in the future, like, yeah, that should have been the one. But every time I listened to it, I was just like, yeah, it's not the record I wanted it to be.
Yeah, that was my feelings on that one too. It didn't stick with me most of the year.
But this record, Process by Pinch Points, speaking of album covers, this is actually an album cover I really liked.
Yeah.
It's like a little circuit board. I think it's eye-catching. I think it looks really good. Kind of fits, but kind of doesn't fit the sound of the record. I definitely, when I first saw it, thought that this would be more electronic, and it is not.
No.
Musically, they are super stripped down. It's just guitar, bass, drums, 2 vocalists. No one in Australia can sing, apparently. And so for all of the UK post-punk talk, Marky Smiths, I don't know why anyone needs the UK version of it when the Jacko from Energizer yelling at you Australian version of it exists, because it's eminently more enjoyable. It's just fun to hear Australian people yell.
The way he says, read the news on the first track gets me every time.
There are so many lines on this record that are just so satisfying. Their delivery is great. I love the kind of call and response, overlapping, alternating vocalists. Yeah, the lyrics are funny and salient. I feel like that this is an incisive political punk record. Genuinely has something to say, and I think that they have something to say in specific and of the moment ways, but also in ways that will stand the test of time. They're just rooted in good praxis and theory that are probably always going to be relevant, probably only going to become more relevant as we globally slip into fascism and climate crisis. Both big themes on this record, expounded on in really good ways. One of the fun songs on this record I really enjoy listening to is they they do this kind of like subversion of, is it Compromat?
There's a song on there, Compromat.
That's the one where they're talking about snowflakes and you're like, oh, weird. Are they like not PC? Really good way of like building up the lyrics in that song into the point that they're making. A good one to chew on, and kind of like that, like that lefty response to the discourse, cancel culture-y stuff on the internet. This record, if I were to describe it musically, the biggest things that I get, like, there's definitely like the Australian like indie rock like stuff, but that's kind of surface level. I mean, people would, maybe compare to like the Chats, I guess, and maybe, but to me, it feels like what End of the Year used to be.
Yeah.
He sounds a lot like Pat,
Yeah.
The guy in this band. The two vocalists together give me a Kill the Man Who Questions feeling. And in general, I get a big kind of McKee, more amateur party in terms of like the sound of the band overall, which is a sound that very few bands have, that I love, that I wish more bands sounded like. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and overall, I think there's just kind of like a Minutemen, We Jam Econo kind of feeling to this. It's very efficient, jangly, wiry guitars. It's really not crazy, flashy, showy stuff. There's some guitar solos, but they're pretty sloppy, and it's a really good record. I think I'll come back to it. We'll see. I'm interested to see what else they do. If they follow up with something else, like this might be, an instant classic band for me. I don't know.
I thought it was funny. I looked at their tags on Bandcamp, and they're like Melbourne punk, biomechanical, garage post-punk, turbo punk, and Melbourne again. Turbo punk.
Make sure they know we're from Melbourne.
Oh, they'll know. Yeah, I love that record too. That was one of my new release Fridays earlier this year, and I really like that one. It's probably in my like next 10 down or so. It's up there for sure. All right, my number 10 pick. It is Neal Sharma and the Sagebrush, Shiver in the Sun.
Am I leaving? Am I just fading out? With the way that I see it being now. Looking in and standing, listening and watching. Every day has a measured question now. The time that one believes is a lie. You can search, you can find a peace of mind. Bind down only precious things. All along, giving warm everything. Ever wonder
Neal
about
Sharma
how
and the Sagebrush are from California, just nebulous California. Released April 16th. This is the band's fourth full-length album, and it was released on Vitriol Records. It's a digital-only release, though, unfortunately. The personnel is Neal Sharma on guitar and vocals, John Drennan on guitar and Rhodes, Jason Brownstein on bass, Mike Cross on drums, and Hillary Lewis on viola. And it was produced by Neal Sharma and Jack Shirley. Neal Sharma famously is from the band Ghostlim, and he also had his own band called Forming that I have talked the praises of multiple times on here. I think the only people in the world who listened to Forming were you, me, John Russell, and Justin Smith. After Forming, Neal also started another band called Highwater, which was an alt country side project solo thing. It's very, very similar to what he does as a solo artist. That Highwater record ruled. Very underrated album. A lot of people did not listen to that, but I was looking up some of the members, and apparently, John Drennan and Jason Brownstein also played in the band Joyride, who had a record earlier this year that was also really awesome. Talked about that with good friend Corey.
I'm trying to remember if I listened to that Joyride record this
It's good.
year. That name is familiar. See if the album cover looks familiar. I don't think I listened to that.
So this was a surprise drop. I think it just dropped on Bandcamp first, and then eventually actually dropped on Spotify, which most of his stuff is not. Oh, all of his stuff except this record is not on Spotify, so that should be changed. But everything else is on Bandcamp. I'm sure that it doesn't contribute. It doesn't help him from being such a small niche artist by not being on Spotify. But also, like, I don't know that he plays this stuff live or anything. So I don't know if it's just a studio project or, you know, I guess I could describe the sound. So I would call this I'd say alt country is probably the main sound of it, but there's also this, what else is it going on? It kind of feels like the middle ground between his forming stuff and the High Water stuff. Like High Water felt extra alt country, and this has a little bit more different kind of guitar tones on there. I don't know if that's the Rhodes guitar doing some weird stuff.
Rhodes is a piano.
Or yeah, Rhodes piano, sorry. But it, like, I don't know, there's these weird like Archers of Loaf, like icky metal era line, like guitar lines on here, and even some of that like kind of swirly Gareth Lydiard of the Drones and Tropical Fuckstorm, like weird bendy stuff going on. There's piano on this album, which is nice, and the strings, it kind of gives an overall bigger feel to this album, a little bit more of a cinematic feel. So Jack Shirley recorded this, and he of Comadre fame, and now the Atomic Garden. That's probably the thing he's most well known for at this point.
Yeah, he's almost better known for production work at this point. I mean,
yeah,
you know, he did the Death Heaven Sunbather record and has done tons of stuff like that in that world. So,
and he said this album was recorded and mixed live to tape. No computers were involved at all, and the vocals were also recorded live with the band playing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So someone asked how they were tracked, and Jack Shirley said everyone in the control room was playing without headphones. Drums are in the live room, and the amps are in booths. So I'm assuming that Neal was in the control room too.
Yeah. Which
is a really cool way to do a record. Like, just really gives you that live feel. And the album does feel really organic and realistic. So yeah, if they were to play live, I imagine this is just how they would sound. They would sound this good live probably. But yeah, he taps into this kind of melodic, melancholic tone on his records. You wouldn't call him a traditionally good singer. He has a very, would you describe it as a flat voice?
I mean, he sings the notes. I feel like maybe he's a few cents off, but it's in that tolerable range. Yeah. He definitely sings with the intention though of singing the note and not like trying to put like a lot of energy into it. Like he's not trying to perform the song in like any theatrical way. He's really just trying to sing and get it down. So that kind of, I guess it's more like a low energy but relatively on pitch performance.
Yeah. It's a great record. I really love it. I love all of his stuff though. He has 4 great solo records, the forming stuff, the high water stuff. It's all good. Goes Limb rules. Justin told us like Neal broke his back at one point, and there's a line on one of the songs about how he broke his back. Like there's a line in a song about I broke my back. Like, and so it's not just a metaphor for the song. Like he literally has broken his back. But yeah, I love this record, and you should check it out if you like the alt country sort of stuff. What do you got next? Your number 9.
Number 9 for me is, I believe, I'm just going to say that this is the choice that I'm going with because it was left up on the screen where we're picking this up from our power outage mid-episode. My next pick is Cabeza by Brush.
Operator, please. Someone's trying to get a hold of me. Someone secretly reaching from an unknown frequency.
Sagebrush. This was one that you sent me. This was a homework selection.
Homework should come back in 2023.
Yeah, I would like to do that. It doesn't even have to be just like, it doesn't have to be even like the 5-song thing. I think you should just be like, here's everything that came out this week or that I came across that you might like.
Yeah.
This was a cool record. I listened to it probably immediately or shortly after. Like, it was one of those like, oh, I really like this song. I'm going to listen to it pretty soon. It was definitely a standout from that batch of songs that you sent me. And listened to it and kind of thought like, yeah, it was a good record. I enjoyed that. I should pay attention to this band. Didn't really expect to come back to it a bunch, but yeah, I ended up coming back to it multiple times. A lot of these songs came up on shuffle for me a lot on my playlist of stuff that I've listened to this year that every now and then I'd shuffle, which really helped cement. It really is that was kind of like the deciding factor for a lot of the stuff that made my top list. And it had me looking at like, when I was looking back at like records that I listened to, the most, or listened to songs from the most this year, there were a few surprises where I was like, I did listen to that a lot. I was like, at least some of the songs from it, maybe not the whole record multiple times. But as far as the records that I tried to pick for this list, like with this one, this is one that I did intentionally come back to at least a few times and really dug. Would love to hear more from them. Brush is, I guess, not like the most active band, or the most, seems like maybe a side project sort of, or might be one of those bands that does this one record and that's it. I don't know. It is, they are listed as having related artists Adult Dude, Chumped, and Katie Ellen. So that kind of gives me the maybe short-lived side project feeling from it.
This? Let me pull up my notes from my 2022 A to Z.
It's Dan Frelly, from the drummer from Katie Ellen.
Right, and I think he was in Chump too.
Yeah. So that's the only common member
just
between
him.
Those two bands.
Yeah.
The drummer. But this is a broadly categorized, I would say, as an indie rock record. It's got a little bit of a slacker rock 90s vibe. It's got a little bit of alt country. There's some pedal steel on a couple of these songs.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit of like the weaker than's interpretation of those country influences. I think maybe just like more in like the instrumentation, but there's something to it too about like the songwriting on those songs is particularly country influenced. There's a lot of really great standout songs on here. I mean, Pleasure Swap, Cat, Doll, Joey Ramone. There's just tons of stuff that stands out to me looking at the track titles. Overall, it's a great record to listen to. It's 34 minutes long. It's super digestible. It has a nice kind of variety to it, which is something that I really appreciate about it, in that it like, there's short songs there's like short, faster songs, and then there's like longer songs with like more instrumentation, and then there's like kind of like, well, this was just like a clever idea I had for a song, and I'm gonna make it, just like a 2-minute little sweet little pop song or whatever. But it all sounds like, it doesn't sound confused. It sounds like a cohesive band just kind of interpreting a few different kinds of styles of songs. I think it's good songwriting too in general. Like I think it's well thought out, clever lyrics that aren't like, they're not like grandiose or like overly romantic or trying to say anything substantial, but they're also not like totally disaffected, like diary entry kind of like observations. I just think that they're like written from the perspective of like, this is like the idea of a song that I want to write. This is specifically a kind of song that I want to write. I'm going to sit down and do the work to write the song, instead of being like cracks knuckles, I will write a song and expect something to like, emerge on the page or whatever. Like, I think there's intention in the songwriting, and it really shows.
Was this one that I sent you and I was like, hey, they stole your idea? They beat you to your music.
There was a lot of stuff this year that does a lot of the instrumentation and stuff that I want to do.
I think it's before I've actually heard some of that. I probably sent it before it said that before I had heard some of the more full band stuff that you guys recorded. And
yeah.
So it sounds a little bit more different than what I was imagining versus what it actually turned out to be. But yeah. All right. My number 9 pick, it is End It and their EP Unpleasant Living. Baltimore, Maryland. They formed in 2017. This was released July 8th on Flat Spot Records. The personnel is Akil Ghazi on vocals, Johnny McMillan on guitar, Ray Lee on guitar, and Chris Gonzalez on drums. Oh, and Pat Martin on bass. My notes were written funny. Recorded and mixed by Kevin Bernstein, who has this year also worked on releases by Praise. That EP got a lot of talk. Full of Hell, Misery Index, and The Wind in the Trees, which I also enjoyed this year. So End It rules. End It are probably one of the best bands playing hardcore right now. They're a 2-guitar band, so they actually get to really play with like guitar leads in their music too, so it really shows off their skill set. Akil is one of the best vocalists in hardcore. He has such a unique and singular voice. Like, I can't think of any other hardcore vocalist who sounds like Akil. Like, he is his own artist, and that probably comes from his like actual singing skill that he has, because he was like in choir. He went to like a performing school, I think, a music
conservatory.
Yeah, and he has like in a choir. So that means he probably sang for his the entire time he was in the school. So, which he shows off on was it La Pile du Vide, which is the one that just starts with him just singing like like into the song.
The power metal send up.
Yeah. This was let's see. This is the third EP. It was bundled together on an LP with the self-titled the EP from 2017 and the one-way track EP from 2020. We have yet to get a full-length album from End It, but I also don't know that End It's the type of band who will ever do a full-length album. I don't know. There's just like there's a chaos that surrounds End It. I mean, it may just be surrounding Akil, and the rest of the guys are just along for the ride, but it's by design, because I've definitely like listened to his podcast Up the Blunks, and he's always telling these just like wild stories, and he's never in the same place. He'll like disappear and like go to New York for a couple months and then come back to Baltimore. He's all over the place. It's a 6-track EP. It's only 8 minutes long. It starts off with BCHC, the Baltimore City Hate Crew, which also starts off with a country sample, which just they like slow the record sound down, so it sounds like it's melting. And the New Age Slavery, one of the best songs in their discography. Just a great breakdown, really cool leads, great guitar, all over the place. I would love to see End It live. They're actually going to be in North Carolina this month. They're in Chapel Hill. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make that happen. Who are they playing with? Oh, they're playing with The Chisel, who are that UK like punk band with like Chubby and the Gang members. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to get to that. But love to hear an End It LP, but who knows? There's already a new song. They put out a song for a compilation on Flat Spot that came out this year, 2023 already. So maybe we'll get some more End It soon. But yeah, your number 8.
All right, my next pick is I'm gonna go with Soul Glow's Diaspora Problems. Go higher. I don't know. I'm just gonna roll with the selections where I put them.
Yeah, this list is like my list could definitely float, and it's also like just because I picked 10 for this isn't my top 10, because there's stuff that Dylan picked that would be in my actual top 10. So it's a collaborative list more than anything.
But this record is one of the most popular punk records of the year. Definitely a record that made a lot of people's end of year lists. I'm sure it has been said by others. I will add my voice to the chorus and maybe try to at least give my own perspective of this, but I think that this is the shape of punk to come of the 2020s.
Whoa.
And maybe time will tell that, I don't know, maybe people are going to want to say the Turnstile record is that record. And maybe this is like the relationship of command, the one that actually is what people say the other is. Listening to this record, I can hear where it comes from. I can hear the influences for sure. And the ways that genres are blending here is not a secret. I think they're pretty clear. They're not even like, it's not like they've never been done before, but I think they're done in a way on this record that is truly impressive, that is truly a changing of tides. I think that this is a record that people are going to look back on and be like, that's the one that spurred me to do what I'm doing now. And it's, this record is of a moment with other records that are blending rap and noise and screamo and more aggro hardcore and like groovy alt metal riffs. Like I said, there's the Turnstile record. It's, what Turnstile's been doing for a little while. Like it's not the newest thing in the world, but I think that this record is done in a way that is, like I said, it's truly impressive. It's a thrill to listen to every time. There are moments that are really satisfying when you know they're coming and then they hit, and then there are moments that catch you by surprise every time. Yeah, it's just a blast to listen to. I mean, it really is. Like there's not a single moment on this record I don't like. Yeah.
I would say that this is the record that got covered by sources that don't talk about punk records. Like it showed up on so many best of lists,
which is usually suspect, but I think it's actually people being on, like, actually got their finger on the pulse right for once.
I think I think Soul Glow is one of those bands where it's been like all eyes on Soul Glow for a couple years now, because it's always been like, these guys are the next big thing. These are the next thing. And like they would put out really great stuff, but it like they did these weirder, like shorter releases, like Songs to Yeet at the Sun was like an EP, and then they did those 2 like 3-song EPs on Epitaph before this one came out. So it's like they weren't giving us what we were wanting, what we were waiting for until now. Like this to me feels like the definitive statement record by them that, yeah, like you said, will probably be the the Relationship of Command, or which one's the bigger one, Relationship of Command, or is Shape of Punk to Come the more important? Relationship got on the radio.
I mean, Relationship, I think, is like the actually commercially important record, and I think is a record that a lot of musicians stated by name was influential, maybe even earlier. I think the Shape of Punk to Come got kind of like the retroactive critics highlight of like, oh, this was the influential record, and it was like, yeah, it was influential,
yeah,
but it was more of a piece with a lot of other stuff that was going on. And I think that a record like at the Drive-Ins record is like something that people might have singularly latched onto in a way that I think that people will with this record.
Well, which one of these would have been in a Taco Bell commercial?
Well, I mean, Turnstile is going to be the Taco Bell commercial, I guess.
Well, they already are the Taco Bell commercial. I meant would at the Drive-In or the other.
Yeah, I guess at the Drive-In's the one with the. I don't know though. Depends on the Refused song.
Yeah.
I heard an At the Drive-In song. Oh, that's where it was. I was in a ramen restaurant in Pasadena, and I was like sitting there, and I'm like, what is this? Like, is that One Arm Scissor? It's weird to hear in this place.
Yeah.
I mean, analogies aside, like we should talk about this record in what it actually is. But yeah, I think it has something really significant and timely to say. I think that from the album cover, like it is overtly political and having a commentary to say, something to say about America and being black in America, that I think is not like it hasn't been done in punk before. I mean, Bad Brains, not to, I do think that there are actual sonic similarities to Bad Brains at times on this record, but not like, not even like beginning to end. It's like, oh, that's a Bad Brains riff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this is, but yeah, I mean, as much as like having something to say, like it's also like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's fun to listen to. It's not like a chore in any way. It doesn't feel like you're, reading a pamphlet that came with a Xeroxed album cover, a 7-inch sleeve from a crust band that has more to say than they do musical talent. The riffs are there, the drumming's there, the vocals are there. The vocals are insane.
Yeah, the vocals are nuts on this record. He's such a good singer, or like whatever. He does everything. I mean, it's like dissonant in places. It's noisy. It's like even like the way a lot of the vocals are recorded, they have like a ton of like filter on them and very just unique sounding. And like the most like poppy song on the album it still sounds like he's like got an effect on his vocals, but I'd say it's probably the most important punk record of 2022 for sure. Moving on.
Sure.
All right, my number 8 selection is The Boys with the Perpetual Nervousness, the third wave of. September 9th on Bobo Integral and Tearjerk Records. The Boys are a long-distance band. This is between two different artists. One is a Scottish artist, Andrew Taylor, and a Spanish musician, Gonzalo Marcos. Both of them are multi-instrumentalists, and this is the band's third full-length album, produced by Jan Vidar and mastered by Will Killingsworth. Will Killingsworth mastered probably a quarter of the albums this year that I listened to. That guy has been busy. I absolutely fell in love with this band last year with their record Songs from Another Life. So I was really surprised to see that they were going to be putting out another new full length this year. Back-to-back releases are kind of rare, even rarer for the second one to be as good or maybe better than the first one. And it could just be a matter of vinyl delays that one got put out when it did, and it probably was done for a long time before this one came out. I don't know. It's hard to say when something was recorded. Being a long distance project, though, I'm like shocked at how quickly they crank out these songs, because I don't think they're ever in the same room. I don't think they ever play shows. Like, it's just here's my parts. I emailed it to you. They're very much in the Teenage Fan Club style of jangle pop. I think this album's actually better than the actual last Teenage Fan Club record that came out. It's a better Teenage Fan Club record than the Teenage Fan Club record that came out last year. But last year was also a special. It's a different Teenage Fan Club's a different band now. So this album features a little bit more psych rock and the harpsichord-y sounding guitars than the last album. Vocals are super sugary sweet, really good melodies and harmonies all over this album. The song Look Back probably has one of my favorite choruses of the entire year. And so one of the things about them that I really like is that they have 3 LPs, and all 3 of them feature exactly 10 songs and are all under 30 minutes long. So maybe that's the secret to being so prolific. Like, they're like, we have 10 and we don't go over 30 minutes, and we'll just save the rest for the next album. I don't know if that's how they approach it. But the thing is, they have their own other projects too. I can't remember the name of the other band that Andrew Taylor is in, but they also are just very similar in the same like vein. So it's like, not only is he got like this amazing jangle pop band, but he also is in another jangle pop band. It's hilarious how Dropkick, that's their name, Dropkick. Because I listened to their album The Scenic Route in 2020 and didn't even realize it was the same guy. But for 2023, I hope the band puts out new music because I love hearing them, but also 2 back-to-back is pretty pretty good, so you could take a break. I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't one. I did see this awesome review on a blog called Raven Sings the Blues that said, the boys wrapping their heartache in a cavalcade of hooks that are rather hard to ignore as they flip through an alternate history radio station where Superdrag's second LP got the praise it deserved, Teenage Fan Club topped everyone's list over Nirvana in 91, and Matthew Sweet kept on writing songs for Choo Choo Train rather than split solo. Have you ever listened to Matthew Sweet's Choo Choo Train?
I've never listened to Choo Choo Train.
I like the Superdrag reference, though. That's cool.
That's a good comparison. That's a good note to make. The Teenage Fan Club thing jumps out to me for sure as being Teenage Fan Club guys. I don't know. What are we? Teenage Fan Club members? Teenage Fan Clubbers. I think that this, I liked this record more than the last one that they did. I've listened to everything they released so far. Didn't realize this one came out until you put it on your top 10 list. So yeah, way to go, I guess. You didn't send me this one, and you didn't send me the Neal Sharma record, and I would have liked both of these.
I think I gave up on, that's probably like we started doing the homework as a Patreon, and so like I stopped doing the just sending you stuff.
Yeah, we ruined it by monetizing it.
Yeah.
Don't sell out, kids. I really enjoyed this record. I do think that I think that as a project, as a band, they have come into their own a little bit on this one, whereas like the Teenage Fan Club like worship was a little over, and like not necessarily like a bad thing, but it was kind of like, well, this isn't Teenage Fan Club on the previous stuff. But listening to this one, I was like, there's definitely that influence there, but like they really have leaned into that 12-string guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's all over the place. Like it's like it's constant, and it's nice to hear. I really like the sound of 12-string guitars. I think that they do it well. I think that they're using it as more than just like a background kind of like shimmer. I think that they are using it as a lead instrument in a way that is hard to do because it can sound really goofy playing lead guitar lines, but they've done a really good job of writing leads that work for the 12-string guitar. It's really the most prominent thing on the record to me. But yeah, and then the harmonies are super sweet. It's a record I should probably come back to see like what really stuck. But I really did enjoy listening to it the one pass I got through it.
Yeah, it's one I kept coming back to. And I also would say I think Teenage Fan Club is in as far as influences this year. Because I got another record that's got a little bit of that going on. But yeah. All right, you want to do your number 7?
Yeah, my next pick is the power pop selection. I guess we just lined these up with hardcore, power pop. But it is Supercrush's EP Melody Maker.
With teeth so straight and white, you've got a perfect smile. It's so much prettier than mine. I bet your parents bought you braces as a child. I wanna see it all the time. And all the clothes you wear, they got your trademark style. It's so much prettier than mine. The thought of taking them off really drives me wild. I wanna see you all the time. You're on my mind all of the time. You're driving me insane. You're on my mind all of the time.
This was an instant. I was just like, first song, perfect smile. I was spinning. I was just like, wow. Like, I'm going to listen to this so much. The next song, Hey Christine, an instant pop banger, great song. All in, I mean, it's a 5-song EP. It's super easy to get through. It's super digestible. But it's just incredibly catchy. Great riffs. Who knew that someone from Black Breath
Yeah. Mark Paul.
would write such great pop songs?
Yeah.
Definitely big, like, Teenage Fan Club, Matthew Sweet, for sure. Those are definitely references to make. A little bit of the Chapel Hill edge to it. And then there's like Helium High is kind of like a longer drawn out, slower song, a little more hum influence maybe. But this record is just such a blast. Apparently recorded at the same time as the first album, so I really need to go back and listen to the first album. That one slipped by because I'm sure it sounds as good as this one, but longer.
I think the LP is better. I mean, it's longer, but I think it's better than the EP, but it's of similar quality. Like when I heard that, I was like, oh, they did the thing where they went in the studio and were like, all right, we're going to record like 20 songs and then we're going to set some aside for an EP.
Yeah, I think they were just like, we have too many songs for an album, so let's pick an album sequence that works and then figure out what to do with the other songs. But I don't think that they were at all like, these are leftovers or these aren't good enough. Because, I mean, if Perfect Smile isn't good enough to make your album, that's all I have on this one. I don't have a ton to say.
All right, my number 7 pick is Timeshares Limb. In September 2nd on Wiretap Records. So this record is a long time coming. This is Timeshares' third full-length album. Their second full-length album was released in 2015, Already Dead. They were the band apparently was not happy with how that album came out. I don't know what exactly it was they didn't like because they didn't really go into detail, but I thought that album was amazing, and the band was on the verge of calling it quits. The previous guitar player had left the group, so they were now a 3-piece, and then eventually they were able to find a new guitar player to add into the band. They added Maxwell Stern from Signals Midwest. The album wound up being finished like a couple years ago. I think pre-pandemic the album was finished, but due to like weird record label issues, they had to shop it around and couldn't get any traction. I don't know if it's because the last one was on Side One Dummy, and so maybe because there was that period where Side One Dummy didn't do anything for a while before they came back and started putting stuff out again. So I think there was just a point where like they had finished the album, maybe given it to Side One Dummy, and they're like, we're not doing anything. And so then they tried to shop it around and couldn't find a home for it. So in that time, they released 3 EPs. They released between 2018 and 2021. Actually, I think the first 2 were in 2018, and the next one was in 2021, which had just come out when we talked to John. So Wiretap is the label that finally came to and was like, yeah, we'll put it out, which is a weird record for Wiretap to put out because Wiretap is very pop punk centric, so it's kind of neat. Timeshares, they originally were one of the Gruff Latterman fest punk bands on their first record, Bearable. And so then they got to their second record, they took on that Replacements, Tom Petty Heartland rock feel to it. Tom Party could be a good band name, but personnel on this album: John Hernandez guitar and vocals, Eric Bedell on drums, Maxwell Stern on guitar, and Mike Natoli on bass and vocals. The album was produced by Joe Reinhardt of Algernon Cadwallader. And I've just been a fan of Timeshares since I learned that the guys from The Knockdown had a new band. And the first thing I think I heard by them was the split Timeshares did with Captain We're Sinking. I've been a big champion of this band ever since. They do just this great... It's the Heartland punk thing. It's this kind of rootsy rock with a little punk edge. It's... I don't know how else to describe the specific sound. Little country to it, but not a lot. Just a little sprinkle of it. This album does there's a song on here called Siren Sound that does this thing where it builds up the guitars and gets busier and busier as the vocals are over it, and then like they cut out and just let the vocals just carry the rest of that song. There's horn work on here on Still Awake and King of Shame, which I love when horns are on punky records. That's not ska. Let's Quit Together is one of my favorite songs on the entire album. Good high energy, has a great chorus. And we had the pleasure to talk with John on the show last year. We did a Social Distortion record with him, and that was a fun one. He told us then that the album had been finished for a while, so I was very happy to see that it finally had a home. It was coming out, and hopefully in the future we get to see more Timeshares. And this record's old at this point to them. They recorded it forever ago, so who knows if they've got something else already kind of in the works. But looking forward to see Timeshares again, and hopefully I can get to Fest this year and see them play, because they play every year. But yeah, love it. Love Timeshares. All right, what's your number 6?
Probably pairs very well with your selection. It is the cheese to your wine. It is Windburn by Cave People.
You have to ask for it. Doesn't mean it's coming. Dancing on the top of your skin. Can you feel it drumming? You only get one thinking. Sometimes there's nothing. Sometimes nothing's part of it. You can keep on bluffing. Sick of snow, blocking the road, but I like having nowhere to go. It's nice to pretend I don't know how this ends. It's all part of the plan.
A record that you gave me a song from on homework. Philly-based band, primarily I guess it's like a singer-songwriter project, but there are people that played on the record and play in the band, but it is primarily just David Tomaine.
Yep, David Tomaine.
This is very much in line with a record that I'll talk about later that's higher on my chart here. Fellow Philly, well, I guess this is a Scranton band actually now. Cave People do this kind of, how would you describe this? It's kind of jangly, kind of alt country, kind of dream pop, slowcore, like not as whispery Galaxy 500, but also like maybe not as psychedelic.
To me, it feels like a half singer-songwriter record, half full band record too. Like there's some alternating going on.
Yeah, they're definitely stripped down much more, just like acoustic songs, but everything, even like the full band songs all have kind of like an airiness and a jangliness to them. It's a kind of really easygoing indie rock record, but I don't feel like it's like as easygoing as it is. Like I don't feel like it's something that you lose interest in. I didn't. I mean, at least I think it's a very engaging record. I'm trying to think of what is the least dubious comparison I can make. There's a little bit of like a Sidekicks, like on the more slower, janglier Sidekicks sounding songs. That's probably that's the safe bet. I'll go with that.
Another Philly band or Philadelphia band.
But yeah, I listened to this record the first time thinking this is pretty good. Yeah. And then ended up coming back to a lot of these songs individually, and then also came back to the record a couple times. I put it on a It was one of the records that I downloaded to my phone to be able to listen to when I didn't have signal driving through Yosemite earlier this year, which kind of, if you like a record and you force yourself to listen to it in a beautiful setting, is kind of like a cheat code to making it one of your favorite records of the year. But and came back to it other times, and I think that it's an inspiring record to me, because I think that there's a lot that he does here that is along the lines of what I want to do with my own band. So everybody did my sound this year.
Yeah,
it's old news.
You know, the only reason why I even like checked this band out in the first place was purely because I'd seen that Mimi Gallagher from Year of Glad and Nona was on this record. So I was like, hell yeah, Mimi, I love her bands. And I think she just contributes more so on this record. I mean, she might be part of the live band, but I was like, oh, this is very different. You know, she's not the main songwriter, obviously. So, but it's just funny what brings you to an album. I believe I was trying to remember what band Dave was in. Is he in Three Man Cannon? Is that his band? I don't know if you remember them.
I know that name.
Let me double check that before I can edit it out if I'm wrong. Maybe not. No, okay. Dave Tremaine was not in Three Man Cannon. Matt Schmilfening, who is on this record, was in Three Man Cannon. That's why I have that connection there. So, yeah. It's one of those records that he just, like, I guess, got all of his friends to come play. Because, like, Melissa Brain's on here, and I know Melissa Brain's been in, like, a bunch of bands. So you got a lot of people to help out with the record. All right, so my number 6 is Perennial's In the Midnight Hour. February 1st, 2022 is a self-released record. This is Perennial's second full-length album, and the personnel on this album is Chelsea Hahn on vocals, organ, synthesizer bass, tambourine, effects, guitar, and guitar feedback, and then Chad Jewett on vocals, guitar, bass, organ, percussion, and synths, and Will Mulhern on drums. The drummer gets out of playing like a million instruments in most of these kind of projects. Produced by the band and Chris Tetty from The World is a Beautiful Place. Perennial are an experimental post-hardcore band that has openly said that they would not exist if the Blood Brothers did not exist. So there's definitely, it's in the same vein as the sasscore pioneers, which such a funny genre tag that like stayed or just came back around a lot later. Is weird. Perennial also heavily influenced by the Yeah, which, as our discussion with Chad earlier this year about Yeah EP it's not necessarily shocking. This record just, though, it had me hooked from the opening track, the Skeleton Dance. It's just this buzzing guitar, these traded off vocals between Chelsea and Chad, which there's a lot of that like back and forth overlapping vocal on this record. It blows up into these like huge organs. There's an organ breakdown. The title track comes in. I'm hooked. Like, I was 2 tracks in. I was like, I love this record. It's going to stay on my list all year long. I like everything about this record. I don't typically care for when bands do a lot of like interlude and noisy tracks between songs, but they do it so well. Just really fun. They kind of give you a chance to breathe because they kind of careen back and forth from like stuff like Tooth Plus Claw, you know. They're also students of music. Chad actually did a breakdown for this album. I think it was on Brooklyn Vegan, and he goes up through each track, and he will go from referencing the MC5, Motown, the Jam, Miles Davis. Like, Chad has a very rich knowledge of music and incorporates a lot of that in there. I do love the MC5 reference because there's definitely that power behind this record that the MC5 are really known for. would love to see this band live. I don't know that they tour much. I think they just typically just play in New York, but love it. I really love this record. This is a lot of fun.
This is a record I should buy. It's not on Spotify.
Yeah.
So I really didn't spend enough time with it, but it's like Perennial is a band that like I kind of like automatically love anything that they do, just like without hearing a single note of it. Just because I know what kind of thought they put into it and where they're coming from, the references they're making, and I know how all of those things are going to come together in this like unique, explosive, super catchy, dancey package.
You know, it is dancey, but it's also like heavy. Well, heavy. It's chaotic. It's chaotic and dancey. Kind of like Black Eyes. Black Eyes from DC. Like they had that chaotic, but there was like a fun groove that you could dance to too.
Yeah, definitely a big influence. But yeah, I've been paying attention to Perennial and Chad in general for quite a while. So I'm stoked for them too, in the response that they're getting on this record. I do think they're getting a lot of attention on this record that is well deserved.
Mm-hmm.
And hope that they will continue to get people's ears, because this is the kind of stuff that I want more of. Baccae is a great sister band, cousin band.
Yeah,
more dance punk and
Yeah.
like actual punk, not like LCD sound system dance punk.
Yeah.
No more Viagra Boys. I want Perennials.
All right, your number 5 pick.
My number 5 pick was kind of an early release this year, and definitely one of the first releases for me to go album of the year potential.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like most of my top 5 is like interchangeable. I really do feel like almost any one of these records could have been my number 1. So these are my 5 tied for number 1 releases of the year. This is the battle royale of hardcore records. Just an insane, catchy, hard, hooky, killer riffs, great drum sounds, killer vocals, eminently singable. You just want to chant along with everything. It'll stomp a mud hole in you and walk it dry. It is Gotta Give It Up by Sweat. LA-based hardcore band featuring Justin Smith of many previous bands, Ghost Slim, Graf Orlock, Dangers, etc. We've talked to him earlier this year on the show. We talked about a Dead Kennedys record with him. Still haven't seen Sweat. They have played so many times here, and I have not seen them yet. But featuring previous professional wrestler Tuna.
She's still a wrestler. She's
still wrestling.
She got injured, so she took time off, but she's back at it.
And
Tuna.
The drummer is from...
He's definitely played with Justin in another band. I don't remember which one. Is he in Graf? Ooh. Researching on the air.
Anyway, we talked earlier in this episode about album covers not being good this year. This is one of the notable exceptions. Love this album cover. Just one of my favorites in a long time. Great picture. Tells you exactly what it is. 70s swag hardcore. Bright yellow in your face. Just like unapologetically garish and muscular. There are so many killer songs on this record. I mean, it's just like it's a nonstop parade of finishing moves. I mean, Hit and Run, Machismo, Bastard. Man, so many songs with just like a killer riff, killer breakdown, a killer two-step, a killer chant. Just Tuna is definitely one of my favorite vocalists in hardcore right now. I think she just has a unique voice and great timing and delivery. And of course, Justin's riffs have always been a favorite. I really think that he stepped up his playing yet again. I kind of feel like he does that every couple of years, but and different bands have different kinds of riffs that he's trying to write. And he was obviously going for like a very, Sabbath, Priest, metal, 70s metal influenced kind of melodic riff writing. But it melds really well with some of his kind of like stock go-to techniques and riff styles. And the drum kit sounds so cool. That cowbell, the juggy, beefy deepness of the whole kit. It's such a cool sounding record.
They also did a Thin Lizzy cover this year. Killer on the Loose. Fucking rules. We need more Thin Lizzy hardcore. Yeah, Sweat. Sweat's in my like top 10, like my personal top 10. God, this record is so fucking good.
To further sell you on this record, if you know me, like this was a record that I listened to and then I think immediately listened to the next day again, which is not something that happens. I don't do that. I probably listened to it like 3 times the week it came out.
All right, so my number 5 record, it is Expert Timing's Stargazing. Are from Orlando, Florida, released September 23rd on Count Your Lucky Stars. This is the band's second full-length album after their 2018 album Glare, which is the follow-up to their this is also the follow-up to their 2020 EP Whichever Whatever. Personnel on this record is Jeff Snyder on guitar and vocals, Katrina Snyder on bass and vocals, Gibran Colbert on drums, Nick Sadea on guitar. And it was produced by Kyle Hoffer, who also worked on Camp Trash's EP from last year. And so this is the first record with their second guitar player, Nick Sadea. So I was kind of nervous. I'm always like, don't change the formula. Keep it the way it was. And no, it was a very welcome addition to the band because I think it offers up probably live. It probably helps way more. It gives Jeff a little bit more freedom. But also just like Nick's guitar work works really well on this record. I'm not sure who plays exactly what on this album, because when there's 2 guitar players, you never know. But Expert Timing they're a mix of emo, pop punk, and power pop. And they embrace the bubble grunge tag on Bandcamp. So that kind of gives you an idea of what they sound like. Let's see. Well, I was first introduced to Expert Timing through the Fest website, because I used to go through and like look at the bands that I'd never heard of whenever they announced the lineup, so that I can see if I find somebody new to go see at Fest. And I sampled them and I was like, oh, cool. And then they put out their record Glare that October before Fest. And so I would listen to that and I was like, hell yeah, definitely going to go see them. Their live performance is amazing. So much fun. Gibran They did the thing where they put the drummer front of the stage, which is a very rare thing to do. And Gibran is just like this charming, engaging, and super fun drummer who just like, wow, you just watch him play the whole time. But everybody else is really fun in the band too. Like they just have this really great energy. I am excited to see them at some point with Nick to see what changed in the energy. I'm assuming it'll be more fun, but we had Jeff and Katrina on the show during the old format and unfortunately made them talk about 45 Grave and Nick Cave. So I've wanted to make up for that ever since then. We did have Gibran on to talk about Everclear, so that's cool. But I think Stargazing is their best album to date. The album kicks off with Special Hell, which I think is one of Jeff's best songs. And I think Jeff, as a songwriter, he took a really big leap forward with this record. Like, he was good before, but there's something about his songs on this record that I'm just like, he got even better. I don't know. And Katrina has an amazing song on here called Hey Friend, which is probably my favorite song of hers on the record. And it's just, they're such a good unit. Like every piece of this band works so well together. And yeah, we love Expert Timing. What's your number 4?
Let me do a little shuffle here. I'm going to go with Plosivs with their self-titled release, Plosivs. For those who maybe don't know, are a San Diego-based band, side project supergroup of sorts, featuring John Reis on guitar, of Pitchfork, Drive Like Jehu, Rocket from the Crypt, Hot Snakes, Night Marchers, many things. He's done a few different side projects, done some solo stuff, which we'll talk about. Go ahead and tip my hand here. Also features Rob Crow of the band Pinback. Many other projects as well. He's involved with tons of stuff, but Pinback being kind of like the most notable one, which is a band that upon listening to this record, I should go back to. Rob Crow is the lead vocalist in this band, rather than John Reis. And then, of course, Adam Willard, who's been in plenty of projects, currently the drummer for Against Me, played with Angels and Airways, played with The Offspring, one of the go-to punk drummers for bands that need to replace someone. And Jordan Clark, who was in a few other bands as well, The Feelings Mutual, The Frights, maybe being the most notable. I think he's just kind of like a San Diego guy, but someone described this record as John Reis and Rob Crow just trying to out-riff each other, which is an excellent description because, man, the riffs are nonstop. I mean, obviously, John Reis is like, kind of known for that. Didn't think of Rob Crow as being that guy, but he's right up there with him in terms of the guitar playing on this record. And then, of course, his vocals on here and all of the melodies are incredible. There are so many super catchy songs on this record with this like driving beat and killer Swami riffs. I mean, it's like having another Hot Snakes record. Obviously, it's not Rick's sensibilities vocally or necessarily guitar-wise, so it's kind of a different perspective of it, but just a blast to listen to. Hit the Brakes, Rose Waterfall, See You Suffer, kind of some of the standout songs on here, but there's no bad moments on it. I mean, really, it is kind of like a no notes, perfect little gym of rock and roll riffs. It was easily like as soon as I knew that it was coming out, one of my most anticipated releases of the year.
Did I send you like the single when it first came? I was like, had you heard this? I feel like you hadn't yet.
I hadn't heard it. I think you probably sent me a single. I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
that's gonna be good. So mad that I didn't get to see them. I did not know that they played here until the day that it was happening, and then I was like working that night. I would have loved to have seen them because you never know with these kind of bands. They might not do anything else.
Yeah, that record rules. Big John Reis fan here too. My number 4 pick, it is Stress Positions and their EP Walang Haya. Brand new band from Chicago, Illinois. This was released May 18th. It is a self-released EP, but you can get the cassette version on Open Palm tapes. The personnel on this album is Jonathan Geralt on drums, Benjamin Rudolph on guitar, Russell Harrison on bass, and Stephanie Brooks on vocals. And the album was recorded by Seth Engel, who has also recorded some Retirement Party, and he's also played in Lifted Bells with Bob Nana. So he's a little bit known figure there. So 3/4 of this band were in the equally awesome hardcore band Chew, who put out one of my favorite EPs of last year. Was it last year or 2020? I'm blanking, but they all blend together. In fact, I learned about this band through an email from the Chew Bandcamp. So I was like checking email one day, going like, oh, okay, cool, email from Chew. What do they got going on? And it was like letting us know that they're the members of Chew have a new band. And they quoted the Austin 3:16 promo and said, you thump your Bible talking about your John 3:16. Well, Chew's 3:16 says Walang Haya. So I was like, all right, I'm going to check this out. Hooked immediately. Lead singer Stephanie Brooks is absolutely an awesome vocalist. She sounds like she is shredding her vocal cords all over this EP, especially the closing track, Unholy Intent. Like that's her wow performance of the record. There's a particular brand of hardcore that I really connect to. It's like the loud, fast, pissed off hardcore that's like driven by kind of groovy riffs. Like there has to I'm not like a grind or a power violence listener, so I need like a hook. Like I need like something guitar wise that's gonna pull me in. And there's just a lot of really good guitar work on this album, and the drumming is an amazing part of this record too. They're called D-beat sometimes. I guess I don't know my D-beat definitions too well, but the drumming on here is just like shockingly good, especially on the song Lust for Pleasure. Walang Haya is a Filipino phrase that means no shame or shameless. Just a really, really good batch of musicians working together. I don't know if Stephanie has done any other projects. I couldn't find her anywhere else online. If this is the first thing she's done, which you ever wonder, is like they're so good that they clearly were in something else. It's just not credited properly on the internet. She's one of those vocalists. I'm like, if this is the first thing she's ever done, she's only going to get them even better. But I'm sure she's probably played in like a bunch of like Chicago hardcore bands we just didn't know about, but just rips so hard. I really love this EP. It's short. It's like 15 minutes long, 6 tracks. Unbelievably good. Kind of reminds me of our friends in Body Farm or even Dry Socket. Just like these fast, heavy, loud hardcore bands they're great. Really good. Love them. I really want more from them. I think they said that there is more in the works. They have more songs for sure. So hoping that means we get an LP soon, but maybe another EP. All right. Your number 3 pick.
Let's keep it in the family. We're going to go with John Reis's solo record from the year, Swami John Reis's Ride the Wild Night. Favorite. Didn't have much of an expectation on this one. I think this one kind of dropped.
It was early,
ceremoniously, very early in the year. It was kind of like, oh hey, here's this record I put out. It's like possibly one of the best things I've ever done. But like, yeah, here it goes. It's killer riffs, a production treat in terms of the arranging of the band and the way everything sounds and all the addition of keys on this record, the acoustic piano, some synths. Tons of great stuff on here, and some of his best hooks. I mean, I guess John Reis is kind of known. I guess the first thing I would say about him is like killer riffs, but he's definitely always been capable of some killer hooks too, because Rocket from the Crypt is nothing but hooks.
Mm-hmm.
But he really took it to another level on this one. There's some really anthemic, catchy, like really inspiring songs on here. Ride the Wild Night is like empowering and beautiful. Days of Old Lang Syne is just a blast. Then there's like fun stuff like When I Kicked Him in the Face, which is one of my just such a great When I Kicked Him in the Face. The line is like, I cannot pretend that when I kicked him in the face, I didn't know what I did. Which is just so satisfying. I mean, really just like putting the most like reptile brain caveman impulse for violence in like sonnet form. You know? Beautifully executed. I love the song I Hate My Neighbors in the Yellow House because it's kind of like, I feel like he is complaining about shitty neighbors in a way that's also like, John, are you sure you're not also a shitty neighbor? In a way that I can very much relate to as being like, man, these people next door are really annoying. And then I have like a 1968 Buick that takes like 10 cranks to start. We had 3 cars parked in the street at our last apartment, to which my neighbor put a note on our windshield saying that we should park in front of our own slumlord's house. Vape in the Dark Alone is kind of like my theme song for riding an electric scooter through downtown at night. I wasn't listening to this album when I wrecked, but I could have been, and it would have been the perfect soundtrack. Just imagining that guy on an electric scooter. Man, I could go through each one of these songs. I mean, they're all so catchy, have amazing lyrics, funny lyrics, touching lyrics. It was a blast to see John play a lot of these songs live. I think they played some other stuff too, maybe a cover. I can't remember what else they played. But yeah, it was just a treat to see him again. Looks like Rocket from the Crypt is actually playing here or in Long Beach like next week. So
Whoa.
I should make that happen. But all time one of my favorite guitarists. Whenever I try to write punk or hardcore riffs, it's immediately I reach for John Reis. Anyway.
All right, my number 3 pick, it is X Void, Bigger Than Before.
Don't talk about anything. He brings me flowers and she brings me nothing. I want the feeling of a hand on my head. It doesn't matter if I really can. Do I love the way you want me to? Do I fit your specific point of view? When you hold on to your gift, you turn I suppose we feel.
They're from London, England, released March 25th on Don Giovanni Records. This is the band's debut full-length album. The personnel on this record is Lan McCardle on vocals, Owen Williams on guitar, Laurie Foster on bass, and Johnny Coddington on drums. Lan and Owen are famously members of the band Joanna Gruesome, who broke up a couple years ago. They were a Welsh band. I think I found this one probably through following the Don Giovanni Bandcamp. I think they maybe even put up like a song last, in 2021 at the very tail end that I was like, ooh, I'll write that down to listen to later. And then when it came out, I was just like, man, this record is so good. Very much like the boys with the Perpetual Nervousness, X Void's sound is very similar to Teenage Fan Club, but they also take a jangle and power pop feel with like a punky DIY edge to it. They're inspired by the Byrds, Big Star, and Teenage Fan Club. And you hear a lot of that. You actually do hear more of it. They're less where the boys was more like feels like a Teenage Fan Club worship band. This one, the X Void, feels more like they're more inspired by the Byrds or Big Star. There's definitely Joanna Gruesome was a little bit fuzzier kind of garage band. And so they definitely take that and kind of incorporate it into this sound. It's not as like pristine sounding guitar work that you would expect from a band who's doing this kind of music. But both lead singers sing quite a bit in unison. And the one guy has a really funny voice. He sings down here on all the songs. I'm sure that's just meant to counter Lan's higher voice. This record was also supposedly recorded live with minimal overdubs and in under an hour, which is nuts. Which you get the feeling of this is like they kind of cranked it out pretty quick, but meaning they just jammed a Kano and they just cranked it out in studio time super quick. It wasn't that like, because apparently the songs have been written for years and they were working on these songs together for a while. So, just a really, really, really great record. Starts off with the opening tune Churchyard. Angry at You Baby has an excellent Grand Prix feel to it. I know a few other people who enjoyed this record. Good friend Corey liked it when it came out, and I think even our buddy Steve Long put it in like his top 10 of the year even. So really loved this. Just great melodies, great guitar work, really fun hooks. And an underrated thing that pretty much every record on my list everything I put on my list is under 30 minutes. I think that's the perfect length for an album. Just a hair under 30 or right at 30. But
so you're not going to like it when I put out 2 double albums. Back
well,
to back, right.
I also love Coheed and Cambria, and they did like a 50 something minute album this year. So, Devin Townsend too. Like I do like long records, but they gotta be good. So it better be good.
That's fine. It's never going to happen. But anyway.
You're number 2.
Number 2. Probably one of my most anticipated records this year. Probably my most anticipated record this year. And probably my anticipation is what kept it from being number 1. Though that's, of course, not to say that it's not a good record at all. It's my number 2 for a reason. and it is Oceanator's Nothing's Ever Fine.
It's hot, finally summer and we're coming alive again. Spent the winter getting paler and we got vampire skin. But now the sun's out, we're feeling better about what the days ahead bring. They're lasting longer, stop getting dark before 5. It's time to see the ocean. So grab your towel. Get in the car. We're headed out to Rockaway. It isn't far. Sun shines. Waves crash. Think this might last forever. When we get there, take our shoes
Followed
off.
up to their debut record, Things I Never Said, which has been one of my favorite punk, indie rock, thrash, it's whatever, records of the last few years. That record being such an impactful record to me, kind of unfairly gave too much anticipation going into this one. But I also think maybe my opinion on it needs more time. My immediate snap judgment of it as not as good was probably not correct. I think that with time and continued listening and seeing where else Elise goes with Oceanator as a band, this might be a better record than the debut. It certainly doesn't have like the element of surprise in its favor, but it still does kind of have some surprises. The horns on here on Bad Brain Days kind of came out of nowhere, and then also there's like a spacey heaviness that was kind of there from the beginning, but really steps up on this record.
It could be a matter of whenever you are my expectations were too high going into an album, because I think sometimes it's weird. You'll be like, I fucking love this band and this record, and you're like, I cannot wait for the next one, and then you have this feeling of disappointment. But I also sometimes think that is a false, like you did it to yourself.
Yeah.
Like you were like, oh my god, and it's like, no, it is still an incredible record, and like you said, it might actually be better than the debut full length. So like, yeah, there's a weird thing that happens in your brain where like, I think you just build something up, and when it's not that it's less than, or it's just different.
Yeah.
Your brain is like, what? So you I did that with the Teenage Fan Club record and the Arab Strap record. Like there's a piece of my brain that was just like, I was expecting this thing, but clearly that's not what's happening, And
I think that what will make this maybe in the long term stand out as a better record is that on this record, I think that she is really figuring out what she's really good at. And she's kind of really good at two pretty different things, because there's stuff like The Last Summer and Beach Days and Bad Brain Days, which are like these pop punk, super fun, catchy songs, upbeat songs. And then she's also really good at doing these like heavy ass baritone guitar riffs and like spacey bummer songs.
I think my favorite thing that she does in Oceanator are the ones that I normally, you would think I would gravitate towards the punkier, upbeat, more fun stuff, but I actually like the slower, more just kind of like sad jams that she does. Like I think those are her best songs on both of these records. And they're longer songs too. And like I normally am just like a 5-minute song? No way. And then I'm like, that's the best fucking song on the record.
Yeah, like Summer Rain is mostly just like vocal and strummed guitar, and it's like kind of slow and drawn out and like mopey, and it's beautiful. It's one of the best songs on the record. It's so pretty. Yeah, I don't know. It's growing on me. Might be my favorite. The next thing might be my favorite too. I don't know. Still great batting average, and I'm super stoked for whatever Oceanator does. I mean, she is touring all the time.
Yeah.
Getting great slots, supporting slots on tours, and really hope that continues to swell into a very long career. I think people are still sleeping on this band though, and they need to wake up. Because still one of my favorite songwriters in indie rock right now.
Oh yeah, just like a unique voice. Because I've heard her talk about her influences in other bands that she's inspired by, and I'm like, oh, you're better than them. You're better. At least you're better than your influences. I don't know if you're listening. Oceanator's better than the bands you are influenced by. So
Oceanator is better than Pedro the Lion. You heard it here first.
100%. I agree completely. I like both these Oceanator records more than any Pedro the Lion album. So I know it's probably like blasphemy to some people, but
I know she would not agree. But yeah,
right. Yeah, it rolls. Top 5 album of the year for me for sure. All right, my number 2 pick, it is Onsloow by Onsloow.
Sorry, you needed to wait some. Couldn't decide what shoes to put on. Took a nap and it backfired. Lasted longer than the romance. Spent a week on a dump bud. Fucked me up like a juggernaut. It's not my problem, it's not my problem, it's it. That the clock is ticking. I can't seem to forget. Trying to recall it. Though it makes you mad, I can't be someone of it. Not as long, getting home. Old feelings on the ball. I couldn't tell you forget.
Trondheim, Norway, released January 21st, way back 12 months ago on How Is Annie and Friend Club Records. This is the band's debut album. Personnel on this record: Johan Rimmel on vocals, Matthias Nylena on guitar, Lassie Berg on bass, and Morten Andre Samdal on drums. And Onsloow play this huge sounding power pop style indie rock. Members of this band also play another emo band called Problem Man, who released a really great EP this year. But this album it's hooks and melodies for miles and miles. This, when it first came out, I was like, I think a friend of the show, Dave Brown, actually shared it. I think he was like, he got it in some like email. Yeah, that must be what it was. He must have got it like in an email blast PR thing. And then he was sharing it on like Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. And he was like, check this out. This is really good. And then I had listened to it, and then I think I liked it better than him. And I was like, oh, so this is easily the best album of January. And then February happened, and I was like, nope, still better than still better than anything in February. And just all year long, like, it just stayed in my top 2 for sure. I hear some similarities to Bully's album Sugar Egg that came out a couple years ago. Just these huge melodic anthemic tunes with like real fuzzy guitars. Johanna's vocals kind of remind me of Eva Hendricks of Charlie Bliss, a little, just very high voice, but just like these great melodies all over this record. The album opener is really good, but the second track, A Good Day to Forget, it has such a good chorus that it's the thing that I think that sunk it for me, for being like, oh yeah, this is up here for sure. Really big guitars. The vocals carry most of the songs. They include some like shoegazy and dream poppy elements too on songs like Best Friend. It's just this like overload of just great choruses and hooks. I love this album so much. All right, what's your number 1?
All right, my number 1, kind of a record I had big expectations for. I kind of did the same thing to this one that I did to Oceanator, of being like expecting it to be one thing, and then it was a little bit different than I expected it to be, and was like wanted to be disappointed, but then very quickly like corrected myself. I was like, what am I disappointed about? It's great from beginning to end. And it is Big Nothing's Dog Hours. Which was kind of an underrated favorite when it came out in 2019, that very quickly crept into like one of my most listened to records from that year. And that kind of was true of this one too. It was like, I keep coming back to this record for a record that I said that I was a little bit disappointed to when I listened to it the first time. This record is the pastoral turn for Big Nothing. It's the mega chill acoustic record. It is the aging millennial punk backyard chilling on the deck with your friends record for all of the Sprainerd punks who can't get wasted on PBR Tallboys anymore. This record is, speaking of records that are better than their influences, a better execution of Tom Petty's Southern Accents than Tom Petty's album Southern Accents, which is not the record that people say that it is. It's a good record, and it has some great songs, but it's kind of a mess.
I think, just to say, I think Wildflowers is the album people are talking about when they talk about Southern Accents. Yeah,
Wildflowers is what people said Southern Accents was. Yeah. This is a concentrated 27-minute Jen Blossom's Punk gym.
Perfect length. Album should not go over 30 minutes.
Super short, super catchy. Every song's great.
I love it. Like, yeah, it's the Heartland punk thing. It's the punks growing up thing is what it is. It's like, it's punk bands being like, oh yeah, we could be like really better if we play something else with the music. You know, it's not to say that punk is reductive or anything like that, but I think punk that is influenced by things other than punk is better than most punk. Mohawks, Liberty Spikes, punk rock, pop punk, like the exact same thing over and over and over again.
I think that this is a record that works in the way that they don't compel themselves to be hard or heavy or have like a super crunchy guitar tone, the way that I think punk bands feel when you're in that scene and you're in that moment and you're in that mindset of being a punk band. And I don't think the Big Nothing set out to be a punk band or even any specific kind of band. I think that they all were just songwriters and musicians who were like, hey, we like this stuff. You know, we like the microphones and Tom Petty, and we want to sit down and just write really good songs and not do things that detract from the catchiness of the melodies and the potency of the lyrics. It's definitely singer-songwriter-y punk, but it's done in a collective power poppy way.
I think it's better than Chris. I think it, like you said, that thing where you're like, you come to it with expectations, where you're like, I think really what it is you come to the table with this list of things. You're like, I want this from you, band. And the band goes, well, what if we do this? And they do their counter offer across the table, and they go, and you go, but I like that, but okay, I'll try this. And then it's almost better.
Yeah. I didn't get what I asked for.
Right.
It was the out of stock substitution that was a better choice.
Oh, better ingredients.
Better pizza.
Big Nothing.
Big Nothing. I really want Big Nothing to do a T-shirt with that parodies the Big Dog T-shirts. I don't know where. This is an unrelated tangential thought. 'Cause I don't know where else to say this, and I don't know how to explain the joke without like really explaining the joke. But you know the shirts with the cartoon dog, and he's like saying like really sarcastic stuff. I just think of those shirts every time I think of Big Nothing Dog Hours.
Big Dog Nothing Hours.
But I don't know what the dog should be saying. I guess like a lyric from one of the songs. I don't know.
All right. My number one pick. It's weird that we keep going in. We keep the last like 3 albums that we've talked about, or 4, not so much the Onsloow record, but talking about like expectations going into records, because my number one album of the year, I had a set of expectations going in, and they said, nope, we're giving you this instead. And I'm like, okay, not what I asked for, but it's fucking incredible. So Superchunk's Wild Loneliness. Superchunk's 12th studio album, released February 25th on Merge Records. The personnel on this album is Mac McCaw on guitar and vocals, Laura Balance on bass, Jim Wilbur on guitar, and John Worster on drums. So, I will admit, when the first Superchunk singles came out, I was concerned. I was like, huh. So, like, the last record, What a Time to Be Alive, was just this angry punk rock album. Like, it's ultimately not in my top half of the Superchunk discography as personal favorites, but I also was like, well, since they've come back, they've only done just big loud records. And so the first like couple songs were like these like mostly acoustic songs, and I was just like, acoustic chunk? Oh, the last time you did that, you didn't put out a record for 9 years. Here's the Shutting Up was the last time they did a record that was like very acoustic heavy. And that's not one of my favorites, but I've come back to it and I've reappreciated that one. So I was just like, what are you doing? Don't go soft. That means you're going to stop making music for 9 years. That's what my brain did. I guess there's just a little bit of that, fear that they're going to stop doing something. But so then the album art came out and I was like, I don't like this cover. Just a photo of a goat in like a house. Like, I don't know. I didn't like the cover. I didn't like that they had this melting bubblegum font too, like that they were using on the promotional and like the t-shirts and stuff. And I was just like, I don't like any choice they're making at all for this record. I don't want an acoustic record. I don't want bubblegum font. I don't want the goat cover. And then I listened to it and I was like, hey, that was pretty good. Then I listened to it again and I was like, no, this is really good. And then I like just kept listening to it. And I was like, oh, this is amazing and better than, I don't know, maybe it's in my top half of their discography. I fucking love this album. It's incredibly good. It's my most listened to album of the year. I listened to it a lot. It's one of those ones where I was like, I don't know what to listen to. Superchunk, put it on. And just the song Endless Summer, that's the one that really like hooks me. It's the second track on the album. It's literally about global warming. And he's like, in the chorus, he's like, not to be a huge bummer, but I don't want this endless summer, because it's talking about how, like, is this the year that the leaves don't fall? Is this the year that something about the hummingbirds? It's talking about how we used to write these songs when it was snowy, and now it's not, and it's like 70 degrees in January, and so it's a global warming song, and I'm like, best fucking song of the year. I don't.
Featuring the dulcet tones of Norman Blake and Raymond McGinley.
Absolutely. This record is full of like guest stars. So Kelly Pratt of Beirut plays horns on Highly Suspect. Andy Stack of Y Oak and Lamb Chop plays sax. Mike Mills of REM sings on the Floor. Norman and Ray on Endless Summer. Sharon Van Etten's on the last song on the record. Tracy Ann Campbell of Camera Obscura is on This Night, which is another amazing song on the album. Just like song after song on this record, I was just like, amazing chorus, amazing song, brilliant. And it's like, so I'd say it's a mostly acoustic record as far as the guitar work. There are some like electric guitar parts, but seeing them live this year too, like, it was interesting seeing them play with acoustic guitars, because it's not a thing that they normally ever did. Though they did put out that Acoustic Foolish album, but last year just re-recorded the album acoustic. But just, and then Max done a lot of acoustic stuff with Portastatic and his solo stuff, so it's not unusual for him to play acoustic, but it doesn't usually lead into the Superchunk stuff. And just, I don't know, I love this entire record. It's one of my, it's amazing. It's Superchunk, one of my all-time favorite bands, so expectations were very high going in, but I loved it so much.
I don't remember how much. I don't think I heard any of the singles before the album came out. I was like, I'm going to listen to it anyway, so I don't really need to listen to a single to try to prejudge it or anything like that. So I went into it fairly unloaded, but definitely was not expecting what I got from this record. And I distinctly remember listening to this record and doing the dishes. Like, I just like had headphones in, was doing the dishes the day it came out. And like, I think I just like stopped. Like when the horns came in on Highly Suspect, I just like stopped what I was doing. I was like, wow. And then the sax solo on Wild Loneliness, I was just like, incredible, beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I definitely knew it was going to be good. I do think that this record is kind of the execution of what they were trying to do when they broke up. I think it's similar to what Mac has done on his own, but also has like those vital Jim Wilbur kind of guitar counterlines. Such an underrated, underappreciated guitarist for just doing something completely just on his own on every song.
Isn't he technically the lead guitarist of the band?
Yeah, I mean, Mac mostly just kind of like strums and plays rhythm. Jim is kind of like playing these guitar lines that are like vocal melodies playing on his own. But also
Mac does solo too a little bit too. It's funny. They have an interesting, like, there's not just like, there's not just a lead guitar player in Superchunk. Definitely is more of a Jim's doing his thing and Mac is doing his thing, and they just happen to be on the same songs.
Yeah, I think Jim understands the point of having a second guitarist in a band. He just like plays lead the whole time.
Yeah,
he's just like reinforcing the melodies and playing counter melodies and doing something interesting at all times. Instead of, he's not really doubling parts ever.
A lot of times in a Superchunk song, there's there's like almost two melodies. It's like the melody of the guitar and the melody of what Mac's singing, and they're not the same melody, but yeah, just an absolutely brilliant record. I did not see it on any list except one, and the list I saw it on was Esquire's best of list.
So weird.
It was the only place I saw. I was like, what the Esquire? But I was just like, all right, these websites that say they love indie rock, but they sure did not care about. It got great reviews though. Like every review I read was glowing. So it's just weird that it's not Rosalia and Beyonce, so it's not going to get talked about.
Yeah.
Oh, this is old people music.
Everyone memory hold it.
Yeah.
I forgot that they really enjoyed it when they listened to it.
Yeah. Loved it. So much. So good. Well, we did it. it's late. You got to go to work. It's not really that late, but you got to go to work. It's late in the scheme of best of lists. It's coming out the second week in January, so that's not when anybody cares. But hey, there's nothing else to listen to. We're recording this on a Friday. Nothing came out today, like an Iggy Pop record.
Oh,
I mean, it's cool, but I made my list this morning like I normally do on a Friday, and I was like, I added 3 things. So I'm glad I didn't choose this week to start the new release Friday because I wouldn't have anything to talk about. But yeah, so go listen to these records if you missed them. Just really good stuff. Absolutely. I like our top 10. Like everything in your top 10 is in my top 25. So thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate you so much. And I guess next week we got to figure out what we're doing next week. We'll be back to normal, I guess. Maybe. We owe a Patreon episode, so maybe we'll do that. But we'll figure it out. Thank you everyone. We appreciate you and hope that 2023 is good for you. And we'll talk to you later.